I am currently standing in a massive Minecraft hole that is 1,000 by 1,000 blocks. It goes all the way down to bedrock and is located millions of blocks away from spawn on the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. It's so large that it's possible to stand in the middle and be unable to see the edges, even with maximum render distance. It almost feels like a different planet, but just by looking at it, you can tell something is not right. The bedrock is completely flat, when in all survival worlds, it should have variations. It's clear that this thing is something unnatural, and you might assume it was caused by a glitch or an in-game issue, but it wasn't. It was something a bit more sinister. So how did it get here? And more importantly, why is it here? Well, like most things in this digital wasteland, it has a very strange story behind it. Today we'll discuss the history of one of Tubbo2t's most bizarre phenomena, the massive hole known as Callie's Gape. We'll explain why it exists, and whether it's one of a kind, or if there are secretly more of them out there. It's an exciting topic to delve into, just as exciting as Summoner's War Lost Centuria, a brand new mobile game that combines real-time strategy with the RPG genre. It features 8 vs 8 real-time PvP with fun counterattack mechanics to keep battles fast-paced and unpredictable. Since it's from the same universe as Summoner's War Sky Arena, which was one of the most popular mobile RPGs for 7 years, you can collect iconic monsters from the in-game universe and earn a free legendary monster from playing. Try and create the best strategies with different monsters, runes, and skill stone combinations. Form an alliance with players around the world and help each other earn more rewards. There have been various in-game events like Summoner Academy, Siege Battle Domination, and more. Get crystals and free legend monsters just for logging in every day. To start your adventure, click the link in the description, and thanks again to Summoner's War Lost Centuria for sponsoring today's video. Now then, let's get started. So the first thing on everyone's mind is, how did the hole get here in the first place? It all started 6 years ago. In 2015, there was a lot of turmoil on the server. Bases being griefed, an incursion happening near spawn, and players trying to gain power and influence over others through the use of exploits. One of these players was named Tristan. In his quest to become the most powerful player, he went as far as to backdoor the server using malicious code on Tubbo2t's website. This gave him access to admin commands and world edit. He used these powers to change the server in ways that couldn't be done in survival mode, such as duplicating chunks and copying entire bases and moving them to different locations. He took ImpSpace, which was one of the most famous and sought-after locations on the entire server, and made an exact copy of it that he would move millions of blocks away from spawn. After placing the Imp's copy in its hidden location, he decided it wasn't enough. He would travel a few thousand blocks southwest. It was here that he would create a massive hole in the ground by deleting every chunk in the entire area. He would make it over 1,000 by 1,000 blocks. He even deleted the bedrock so that it was nothing but empty void on the bottom. This made it possible to fall through the actual world and even see the sun directly below when it was midnight. It was truly a bizarre sight. He decided he would name his creation in honor of one of his basemates, Callie. Not much is known about her other than Tristan had built a statue of her near his house at the original Imps, which would also be copied over in the replica. Traditionally, massive holes on the server were always referred to as gapes, which is the term for a large chasm. This explains the origin of the hole's name. It would exist in secret for 6 years until it was discovered by griefers only a few weeks ago. So now that you know where it came from, the question is, why is it here? Why would Tristan make a chasm this large for seemingly no reason? Well, it's complicated. While Tristan himself has never given a public explanation, I've spoken to several people that were close to him back in the day, and the consensus is that there are 2 possible reasons. The first is that Tristan wanted to use the space to create the largest item stash in the server's history. the entire hole would have been filled with double chests and would contain every single item in the game. It would even include illegal items not obtainable in survival, such as barrier blocks, player heads, and other modified items. Remember that Tristan and his basemates at Imps were trying to become the most powerful players, so having a stash like this would give them major advantages over everyone else. Supposedly, they had actually started making the stash in single player, filling in the chests with every item possible. They were then planning to use Tristan's backdoor access to upload the stash to the actual server. Before they could transfer it successfully, Housemaster, who was the admin of 2b2t, had discovered the backdoor exploit and removed it. They only had the use of World Edit for a total of 3 days, so they simply ran out of time to create the stash. While this explains the first reason, the second reason is a bit more strange. It was rumored that Tristan wanted to make his own version of the End Dimension in the overworld. In 2015, the server's end was not always the easiest to get into, as public portals were often griefed and unable to be opened without admin assistance. Since their base was over 3 million blocks away from spawn, having an area of the overworld that was like the End Dimension would allow them to get creative with floating builds without having to travel all the way back to spawn to find a portal. Surprisingly, over a 6-year period, only one thing was ever built in the hole's empty void: a floating island made of quartz. But looking around, even with maximum render distance, you can't see anything. So from this perspective, the loneliness and massive void actually make it feel like the End Dimension, so in a way, Tristan managed to succeed in making his own version. But that leads us to the next question. Why is there now a layer of bedrock covering the hole in the present day? Well, many years ago, it was common for players to make small holes into the void using bedrock deletion glitches. In order to stop this from happening, Housemaster installed plugins that would automatically replace bedrock that was missing from Y level 0. This plugin malfunctioned in the early days, leading to a hilarious incident where an entire layer of bedrock was generated in the End Dimension. It was below the main island and is still there to this day. But when Tristan first made the hole in 2015, the plugin was not active, so they were able to delete the bedrock without having it replaced. But around 2017, the plugin was reintroduced, and when one of Tristan's basemates visited the hole, a layer of bedrock automatically generated at the bottom. It ended up covering the entire thing. Compared to natural bedrock, which is bumpy, the smooth layer gave the hole a very strange look. Surprisingly, the only thing ever built on the bedrock floor was a few trees and a small storage area. A sign with one of Tristan's usernames is nearby, so it's assumed that this area was made by him. But this brings us to the final question. Some have already started wondering, is a hole like this the only one on the server, or did Tristan secretly make more of them? Grab your tinfoil hats because it's conspiracy time. It turns out that the copy of ImpSpace that was griefed recently was not the only one. At least that's what some of the basemates have said privately. But if more copies of Imps exist, it's very possible that another one of these massive holes may also exist nearby. And if the chunks have not been loaded by a player, it's also possible that the void may still be present instead of bedrock. Since Tristan had access to admin commands for at least 3 days, that's a decent amount of time to create copies of multiple bases and create even more holes just like this one. The funniest part of this whole ordeal is that just last month, I was investigating a glitch on 2b2t Australia and said that something like this didn't exist on 2b2t, when in reality, a hole even more massive was on the server the entire time. And there's likely even more of them still out there. So that explains why there's a big hole on 2b2t. Don't forget to leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. Also follow my socials, so take it easy, FitFam, and watch your step.